six, and then I got out, and then I went back in 2003.
What was your job or your rating, your MOS?
The first time in, I was an MP in 95 Bravo, and the second time in, I did counterintelligence.
About what age did you join?
The second time?
The first time.
The first time I was 18.
18.
Right out of high school.
So what made you join?
Well, I wanted to go into law enforcement, and they could hire you at 18, but it wasn't likely. So I enrolled in St. Pete College. Decided I'm not going to go that route. I said I'll go in the Army, be an MP for a couple of years, and come out and be a cop.
And did you?
Yeah.
For who?
The Pinellas County Sheriff's Office.
Okay, so you were a local.
Yeah.
The star man, yes?
Yeah, started.
That's awesome. How many years did you do that?
Total of 28. I worked a little bit at St. Pete also.
So altogether, you have over or right around 30 years of service to your community and or country. It's very impressive. So was there another reason besides trying to get into law enforcement that made you decide with the military, or what made you go back?
Well, the military was appealing to me for just the discipline and the regiment. I like to be regimented and have a solid living. And I didn't stay in because the drug use was so abundant in the 80s.
Inside the military.
Inside the military. MPs. I mean, out of my platoon, there was me and one other guy, Bill Cheney, who didn't smoke hash and do drugs. And these were MPs. So they're supposed to be pretty elite, as far as scruples and morals. And ethics. So I got out. And then I went back in 2003 because of the war. Because when we invaded Iraq, I felt that I was 43. I had a lot of a good skill set from my law enforcement career. I'd worked various jobs, detective and interviewing, was a polygraph examiner, and just had a good skill set. So I changed my MOS to counterintelligence and went back into the National Guard and got deployed.
So you went overseas and then went into the combat environment.
Correct.
Okay. Do you have like a favorite leader or story that you'd like to share with us?
From the military?
From the military, or yeah.
Well,
and we can come back to it if you can't think.
Well, I think of one. I just, and it kind of combines with law enforcement. I remember one time somebody brought in a blasting cap to the front desk of the sheriff's office. We evacuated the whole building. We evacuated the buildings next door for a blasting cap. And here I was in Afghanistan. A lot of my missions were, counterintelligence. You're working with informants, confidential informants, we call them. In law enforcement, there we call them sources. So I did a lot of weapon caches. And we were driving a full-wheel drive Toyota pickup truck, not armored, just a regular 4-cylinder full-wheel drive pickup truck, down these bumpy roads at night after doing a recovery with 85 millimeter old Russian shells in the back of the truck, going through some of the worst roads you ever think of in your life. And we're just bumping them, and all we could do was laugh. I mean, all of us were just laughing. And I'm thinking of this story with the blasting cap, and here we are with all this ordnance, six rockets, basically, in the back, just bumping around, and no matter how slow you went. And that was kind of a funny take on it.
A lot of people don't understand our humor and the way we laugh at things other people wouldn't even think about, making a joke about. Did you use any of your military benefits, the VA loan for house or education, anything like that?
Oh yeah, I used the VA loan. I used it before my second enrollment, but yeah, I used the VA loan. I used the GI Bill. I also ended up using vocational rehabilitation for college.
So you've used quite a bit of those benefits that you earned from your service, and the VA loan. Buying your first house, how did that make it easier, harder? Or
a lot easier.
A lot easier.
Yeah.
Didn't have to come on as much with down payment, things like
right.
that. Do you have any children or anything, family members, anything like that?
Yeah, I have 3 children. They're all adults now, and and a wife.
Do you think that your military experience or training impacted the way you raised them?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Positive, negative, or
Well, they would say negative. I would say positive.
I have stepkids, and it took them to their mid-20s to go, yeah, we get what he's doing. It's kind of the same experience.
No, they still complain. You know.
They'll appreciate it as time goes by, I believe, don't you?
I think so. Once they have their own kids and are raising them and so forth, I think so.
They're making. So with the young people going in now, is if they were thinking about joining, what would you tell a young person? Giving them advice or yay or nay, or would you?
I'm fortunate in the respect that I got to see the Army of yesterday in 1980, right after Vietnam, and again the drugs were prevalent, and then I got to see it in 2003 through 2007, and I was active, went to school and stuff like that, and then overseas. And the Army and all the military is really cleaned up now. It's a lot more professional. They really do a lot of more drug tests. They discipline people. I think it's a good place to rest yourself and get a job and get some good training. Stay if you want to make a career out of it. It's a good place to have a career, or if you don't want to, get the training, find a job that's something you want to do on the outside, and you're going to have a foot in the door already with the training.
Yeah, the life experience, if you would, from the military, it goes into the law enforcement. It kind of helped you get that field, yeah?
Yes, it did. Yeah.
That's a plus or a benefit that a lot of people don't see from the military. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree 100%.
When it comes to you being in the 80s and then in that 2000 era, personally, I was in the 90s and then the 2000 era. Did you see a difference after 9/11 in the way the military individuals were treated?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
When I was in 1980, I was stationed in Germany, and we had Reforger every year, Reinforce Germany. So they would deploy troops to Germany. We'd play war games, and the National Guard would come, and we made fun of them. We just, it was relentless. And I noticed when I went in the National Guard, and then I went to training at Fort Huachuca for 6 months for the Counterintelligence Academy, I was treated the same as everybody else. And then when I was deployed to Afghanistan, I was treated the same as everybody else. I was really amazed. I was a little worried about that because of my prior experience decades earlier. But yeah, they treated everybody really well and respectful. If you deserved it. If you screwed up, you're going to get your dues.
What about the way civilians looked at us?
A lot better. I remember. Again, in the 80s, they didn't treat us like Vietnam, but we weren't allowed to wear our uniforms on airplanes in the early 80s because they didn't want people to recognize us as military. And now, obviously, they promote that. And actually, I think it was mandatory when I would go back and forth to Huachuca that we had to wear our BDUs. And you saw a lot of people thanking you and so forth, and even upgrading people into first class sometimes. And I saw a lot of that, and it was really nice.
It's I would tell my young guys, before 9/11 was different than after 9/11. We definitely saw a different view from the civilian world with their military. Yeah. Definitely changed. You said you have family. This is going to be something that's going to be out there for a very, very long time. Is there anything you would like to share with them? Your great children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, whoever's down the road.
Yeah, I'm glad I did what I did. Primarily, the second deployment affected them a lot, and I have and feel the need to apologize to them. I left them. They felt it was for different reasons than what it was. It was pure patriotism. I felt that I had a skill set that could benefit the military and the younger people in the military, and I had leadership capabilities. I was a sergeant at the sheriff's office, and but I feel I owe them an apology for leaving them, but I also want them to know that if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem. And I have a lot to offer, and I wanted to give that to my country, because if our country isn't safe, they weren't safe.
What do they say when the wolves come? Let it be during my time so my children can live in peace.
Yeah.
Kind of the same, yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like you feel that way quite strongly about it.
Oh, yeah.
That's a wonderful message for your children. This is your interview. Is there anything you would like to share with us? That any questions or any add-ons that you would like to share in your interview? Something you would like to put out there?
Well, I know it's a hard life, and especially when you deploy, it's hard when you're away from your family. And I encourage veterans, when they come home, whether they were in combat or not, to seek the advice, seek the assistance of the programs out there, the VA programs like this, the Pinellas County Veterans Association. There are so many nonprofits out there to help veterans, and the VA itself. And the VA sometimes, I think, gets a bad rap. I've had 98% positive interactions with the VA, and they've been very helpful. It's not that I don't believe the other stories I hear, but at least in this region of America, in Florida and the Tampa Bay area, we're very lucky. We're very fortunate. But I would tell them, take advantage of that. Don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed. Make your family part of your recovery if you need recovery. If you need help, make them part of it. Bring them in, because our Sergeant Major said when we were leaving, soldiers go off and do the ugly stuff, and the families stay home and do the hard stuff. And it's true. My 14-year-old son had to pick up the slack for, the man being gone. And I'm not trying to be sexist, but he had a lot put on his shoulders at a young age. And he did very well with that. But the families deserve a lot of credit and respect for being in a family with a soldier or a military member that is deployed, whether it's, like I said, combat or just deployed to Korea or somewhere else.
It's awesome that you can share that portion of it, because a lot of people don't understand what our families go through while we're gone. Currently, you and I have chatted, and you're doing some amazing stuff with veterans. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, I would. Thank you. Studies show there's a disproportionate amount of veterans who come back from combat deployments who are arrested more than normal or average citizens. And a lot of them are minor arrests, bar fights, maybe domestics, which I'm not condoning any crime, but they are so, their arrests are so much more than the average people. They've come out with Veterans Treatment Court. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but Veterans Treatment Court, they have it. I don't know how many counties in Florida now, but last I counted, I think, I don't want to give a number because it may be inaccurate, but a lot. Tampa, Pinellas, Miami, they're all over. And what they do is, if you're a veteran and you get arrested for something, certain things.
So anything like felony or non-felony, violent?
It could be both. It could be even a felony.
DUI?
DUIs are tricky. In Tampa, I worked a case a lot before where I helped a veteran with a DUI. But DUIs are tricky from a legal standpoint, because I don't want to get into that because I'm not a lawyer.
Right, but let's be honest. A lot of us, when we get out, we do go into violent, possibly alcohol, possibly drugs, because we can't transition or deal with. And it sounds like you're helping with that. So
right.
That's what I'd like to...
Yeah. So it's a variety of charges that Veterans Court will qualify you for. And it's like a diversion program. So you go in front of the judge and you have a team, the VA's involved, and you have a team, and they say, all right, you need to do this. You need to go to anger management. You need to go to substance abuse. Need to go to treatment. They tell you what to do, and you do it, and then they dismiss your case. And I know this because I was in a group, and these people in the group went to Veterans Treatment Court, which I never heard of it. I was a cop, and I never heard of it. I'm like, what's Veterans Treatment Court? And they explained it to me. I said, that's awesome. That's really good. And next week they both came in. They go, we're graduating. We're graduating next week. And they came in, and their heads were down, and they were slumped, and they were all disappointed. And we're like, what happened? What's wrong? I thought you graduated. They said, we did. We graduated, but we tried to get a job. One guy said, I tried to get a job at Wendy's, and I can't because the record is still on my criminal history. So the criminal record was still on the criminal history, and Wendy saw that and said, sorry, you've been arrested for whatever.
Let's say a felony or a battery, something.
Battery or drunken disorderly or whatever. And they wouldn't give him a job. It hurts with renting a house, even buying a house. Hurts with your self-esteem. And it also, it affects you in so many ways. So I know from my career in law enforcement that in order to get rid of a criminal history, you have to have the record sealed or expunged. So I started at that point in, I think, 2016, Expunge U.S. Veterans, a nonprofit organization, where we did the whole expungement at no cost to the veteran. Lawyers charge about between $1,500 to $2,500 to do it. Well, it was hard for me to get grant money because I'm a one show pony, That's all I did. And legislatures and grant people with grants wanted the big. We took 30 veterans off the street, which is good, not knocking them, but they just didn't see the power in what my organization was doing.
You weren't pulling the big numbers that they were trying to.
Right, and it wasn't the big flash news and newspaper articles, So
More background work.
Yeah, so I didn't get any grants. So I did a lot of elevator pitch competitions. I won a lot of money there because I did have a good business plan. I was very popular. Got a lot. And went to Veterans Court, and then it got to where I was funding it myself and couldn't sustain it. So I recently reactivated or reopened my business as a for-profit. It's a LLC, Expunge U.S. Veterans LLC. But what we're doing is, if you're a veteran or first responder, we're waiving any additional fees. I have lawyers on staff that are going to go ahead and not charge.
Do a pro bono.
Do a pro bono for veterans and first responders. We're not a nonprofit, but we are. And even the general public, if they need a record sealed or expunged, it's less than $800, which is a pretty good price. Compared to average, $1,500 is about the cheapest I've found.
Please share both of those businesses so that we can, like the name, so we can get that out there for you.
Sure. Expunge, EXPUNGE, U.S. like United States, Veterans, plural, LLC.
Awesome. You're doing phenomenal work with that. Giving these veterans and first responders who make a mistake a second chance.
Exactly.
In life, which I believe they've earned. You obviously do as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that in life, we have days and times, periods in our life where we're not who we normally are. We may go through a divorce, we may go through combat, we may go through a horrific incident, an accident, something that just changes us. And it's temporary. It may be a week, it may be a month, it may be a year. But you're not the person that you normally are. And in that time, you and I don't like to use the word mistake in these instances. You make poor choices. And you make poor choices, and then you get out of your thing, you get the help you need, and you're back. But it's like a life sentence if you don't get it off your record. And I don't think that's fair. I also advocate for some law changes in the expungement law, 943 in the state of Florida. But there again, it's hard to get a representative to take it and sponsor it because they get 6 a year and it's not a big ticket item. So I've had a lot of trouble to try to get them to change, not just for veterans, for everybody. But I just firmly believe that some people are just bad to the core, and we'll leave them in their category. But some people make poor choices because of situations that are going on, and they deserve a second chance, because the chance of them making another mistake or another poor choice is more likely with that record. Because after a while, like, well, what the heck? I can't get an apartment. I can't get a job. I can't do this. I can't do that. What? You know, you get a clean record, you have no more arrest. It never happened. They don't know about it unless you're going for a government job like police, you know, military and stuff like that. And you get a clean slate. They don't even know. And you get a fresh start. And I love that.
That's awesome work. And probably most of these individuals are younger, you know, 20s, 30s, you know, that they need that fresh start so they can actually become a functional member of society. So that's an amazing goal and amazing company that you're doing.
Thank you.
With this interview, I always like to say the end of it is yours. You want to share anything? Words of advice, something you live by.
Yeah.
Maybe say again, you know, I love my kids, I love my wife, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
This portion's all for you and what you'd like to share.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I'm very grateful for the military. I was thinking that the other day, how much of a positive impact it had in my life, and it still continues to have in my life. I'd like to thank, you know, and you know, tell my children how much I appreciate their tolerance, not just in my military career, but my law enforcement career. It affected them because I was pretty savvy with a lot of things that go on, so they didn't have the most liberal upbringing, if you will.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, I would. I'd like to thank the military for giving me a shot. I'd like to thank the organizations out there that are helping veterans. I'd like to thank all the first responders. I mean, people go out and really put their life on the line for perfect strangers.
And not a lot of money or a lot of thanks.
Not a lot of, yeah, not a lot of that.
Well, I know that you are part of Pinellas County Veterans Association. You know, I sit on the board. We appreciate your time, efforts, and everything you do with that. Thank you for your law enforcement and your military service. On behalf of us, Pinellas County Veterans Association and Veteran Voices, we thank you for your time. I really appreciate your interview. You have a wonderful day, sir.
Thank you very much.